You're not independent. You're just traumatized. Something I was always proud about myself is how independent I was. I didn't need anyone. I can do everything on my own. And that's exactly how I liked it. But after a lot of therapy, I realized it was just a coping mechanism from years of trauma. Being hyper independent is actually just a mask. You use it to hide a lot of things. It basically was just a way for me to protect myself. Somewhere along the way, I realized that self isolating was the only way to keep myself safe. So, what was I actually trying to hide behind all that self independence? One, depending on others makes you vulnerable. When you rely on yourself, you can see all the risk. You know if you can do something, you know where you need to adjust. It's all predictable. But when you rely on others, you don't know how they're going to act. You don't know if they're going to follow through. You don't know if they're going to fuck up. So it's unpredictable. That in turns puts a lot of trust in them and on something that you can't control. That's why it's easier to just do it all yourself. It's a lot safer. Two, asking for help makes me visible. Visibility makes you a prey. If you think about how prey animals try their hardest to stay low, not be seen by predators, that is the same behavior that you do when you try to be hyper independent. If I keep myself small, if I make sure no one can see me, then I'll be safe. And if you think about it that way, it makes a lot of sense. At least in my own experience, when I was seen, when people saw me, when I wasn't careful and I showed how vulnerable I am, that's when I got hurt. You become a target. So if you don't say anything, if you don't show yourself to anyone, nothing's gonna happen to you, right? That might be, but that also makes your experience really lonely. The positive that you get from not being seen also becomes a negative because you don't connect with anyone and you don't experience a lot. And lastly, it's your history. It's a learned pattern. In your past, people have disappointed you over and over again. And you're smart. You recognize the pattern. So why would you do something that has failed over and over again? But that's the thing. Just because it happened with a certain group of people doesn't make it a fact. When you meet new people, when you go into different environments, things can be different. So letting an old pattern determine what's going to happen in a new environment and new places is just limiting yourself. So looking back at this pattern and letting it affect your future choices, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You convince yourself that people in the past that has hurt you are going to be in the new people that actually might be different and treat you better. Don't let an old pattern with old people ruin future opportunities and relationships. That's why being hyper independent now might not make the most sense and could be hurting you. If you can relate to the reasons why I am super independent, don't worry. I'm not telling you to suddenly be dependent and lose that part of yourself. You can still be independent, but don't let it hinder relationships, relying on other people, being able to experience your life without worrying about bad things happening. What helped me get out of this mindset was therapy and talking to the people in my life who I know care about me and slowly undoing those patterns. Healing doesn't mean erasing these good traits of yours. It's about using it in a more productive way that doesn't hinder yourself.